This tutorial video will cover the basic concepts of rendering in the Maxwell Suite. We will cover how Maxwell differs from other rendering engines, basic concepts, and its user interface. The Maxwell Suite is a powerful engine used by designers to produce a wide range of images, from architectural representation to film and TV production. For this tutorial, we will use Maxwell Studio and Maxwell Render. As a reminder, please make sure your entire suite is the same updated version, including all of your plugins. We'll start by demonstrating how Maxwell differs from other rendering engines. Maxwell produces renderings based on a few main concepts: a physically correct behavior and spectral calculations of light, which are key to achieve the Maxwell hyperrealism. A physically correct behavior in Maxwell is achieved by the way materials are created and applied to objects within Maxwell Studio. This is our studio interface right here. This is my object, it's a sphere, and this is my material that I had already applied. This is my materials list, and this is my material editor. By clicking on a material that I had already created, I can see that it's a fabric, and here I have a car paint. Materials are dependent upon two reflectance colors and their roughness, as well as layers, which work like Photoshop layers, and BSDFs, which mean bidirectional scattering distribution function. We will cover more on material creation on tutorial number 4. Spectral calculations of light are also part of the physically correct principle that Maxwell holds. Physically, all light is reflected, and that is why in Maxwell you are able to adjust surface by adjusting their specular and reflected light, their reflectance and transmittance, and so on. Maxwell also understands that artificial light, for instance a light bulb, is simply geometry with a luminous surface. That is, it has an emitter quality to it. Therefore, Maxwell allows us to create emitter materials and apply those to any geometry you want to emit light from. For instance, this is an emitter material I had created beforehand by clicking with my right mouse button, New Emitter. I will now apply it to my sphere. Another important part of rendering in Maxwell are the concepts of progressive rendering and sampling levels. For instance, there isn't a concept of finished rendering in Maxwell. Maxwell will keep calculating it until you stop it, progressively generating images that is cleaner from noise. It also renders the entire image at once rather by going in buckets. Sampling levels in Maxwell are a basic way to measure quality. The higher the sampling level is, the less noise the render will have. So as you can see by this image, which is being rendered as a whole by Maxwell, sampling level 2 has a lot of noise to it, but then sampling level 16 has an almost perfect quality. There isn't a certain number that we can call acceptable prior to start rendering. It always depends on how complex the image is. As a general rule, an exterior scene might render quicker than an interior scene because the lighting in the interior is usually indirect and with more bounces of light to be calculated. Each new sampling level takes approximately twice as long to reach as the previous one. So if it took 15 minutes to go from sampling level 4 to sampling level 5, it will take about 30 minutes to go from sampling level 5 to sampling level 6. Usually, there is no need to go higher than sampling level 19 or 20. So let's compare the two Maxwell render interfaces that I have opened here. On my right side, as you can see, there is a cleaner rendering which stopped after 30 minutes of time. This is a 16.99 sampling level, and on the one on my left, this is a sampling level 10.14. As you can see, the 10.14 sampling level has much more noise than the 16.99. With these renderings, Maxwell lets you set both render time and sampling level. As a rule of thumb, if you set both parameters, the render will stop when the first one is reached. So if you need, for instance, a rendering to reach sampling level 17, you want to set a high period of time, such as 999 minutes, so that the rendering actually reaches the sampling level you desire. Or, if you just want to compare renderings quickly, as I did here, you may set a time of 10 minutes or 5 and a sampling level of 14. The time will be reached before the sampling level will. So with these ones, as you can see, I timed one for 30 minutes and one for 5 minutes. One reached half of my sampling level and the other one reached 3/4 of it. I will now walk you through the Maxwell Render and Studio user interfaces. Both are very adjustable. You can click and drag on a panel to move it around. You can also drop it on top of an already open panel to create a tab on it. To detach and reattach a panel to the user interface, click on the detach icon, and you'll be able to move it around. To attach it again, just re-click the attach icon. When you close and reopen Maxwell, it will remember the layout from the last session. If you would like to save it, you can click Window, Save Layout. For a better workflow, use a mouse to adjust cameras in Maxwell. Click Alt and your left mouse button to pan, and Alt and your wheel button to orbit. This is my camera setting, but for instance, if I wanted a perspective, this is what we have. And as you can see, I have my camera set up right there. Clicking camera, and this is my view yet again. We will cover more on individual panels on the rest of this tutorial series. Now I'd like to talk to you about the MXM gallery and resources. The MXM gallery is a great way to quickly find new materials and other resources through the Maxwell Studio interface. So coming to the Studio interface, we can come to our material browser right here, and there will be a local tab and a web tab. The local tab is where all of your library is, and Maxwell does give you a few materials to start off with. On the web tab, you can actually look up straight into the MXM gallery online. By using the material browser on the web tab, you get automatic access to roughly 4,000 materials, which you can download and embed straight onto your scene. To make sure this works, you want to come to resources.maxwellrender.com and click register, create an account, and then log in with those credentials on your preferences in Studio, MXM Gallery, user, and password. Once you do that, you will get a message here saying that your login was successful. So for instance, I would like to download a grass material. By double clicking, I will actually get a preview of it, and if I like it, I can say import, and it will download it straight onto my scene. I will say embed in scene, and now I have an extra material on my materials list, and I can edit it on my material editor. I come in camera, I can apply it to my object, as you can see here. This was a tutorial on the basic concepts of rendering in the Maxwell Suite. We covered how Maxwell differs from other rendering engines, basic concepts, and its user interface. Tutorial number 2 will now cover a Maxwell Suite workflow for an architectural exterior rendering.